And no one would know the clock management in that situation better than Tim Couch, who's ready to hop in here and let us know. Tim, can you run the ball with 50 seconds in that situation, or is it too risky a situation with the clock and no timeouts?
I mean, it's tough. I think you're getting down to where it's you got to operate very efficiently if you're going to run the ball, and you got to hope you're going to get some yards, because if you get stopped for 0, then it's going to be your offense is going to be backed up. So I don't mind throwing the ball right there. You just got to get some completions, get the ball out of your hand quickly, and they just didn't execute it very well down the stretch, like they haven't done the last 3 weeks when it's crunch time.
Tim, 17 carries for Nick Chubb. There were moments that were huge in this football game. He's on the sidelines. Is there any defense of the way they've used their best player on the team?
I don't think so. You wonder where he's at. Like you guys just said, like you watch this guy the whole game, and he's literally carried the team and got you in the position that you're in. I mean, he's averaging almost 8 yards a carry, right? He's hot. He's probably the best back in the league right now. I don't know why they put him on the sideline towards the end of games when he has been your workhorse for the entire game and got you in position to win. It's frustrating. It's definitely frustrating to see him standing over there when you just want the ball in his hand. Get him out on the field. I don't care if you throw it to him or hand it to him, but a guy like that has to be on the field, man. He's your best player. Your best players need to be on the field and trying to get the ball into their hand, especially in crunch time situations like that.
Tim, I was going to bring up this stat, which is kind of alarming to me. Jacoby Brissett, he can't throw that football, especially down there. That was unexcusable. I don't know what he's doing. He got to be better than that. But if you extrapolate these stats out over the rest of the season, even with Jacoby Brissett, if he played a whole year, you end up with David Njoku with 90 catches, about 900-plus yards. You extrapolate it out, Amari Cooper would have over 1,000 yards, right? And Nick Chubb, if he stays on this pace, would get 2,000 yards. So it's hard for me, because I was on Jason. I said it last week. He said, no, but he is getting the ball. And I had to go back and look at it and be like, you know what? He's on pace for 2,000. My thing is, if your back is getting 2,000 with a backup quarterback, then to me, you have to go somewhere else to find out where it's at. And to me, it's the defense. I just don't believe that should have been the game that they played, given what Nick Chubb was doing, even what Jacoby Brissett did. That is enough to win the game. But I don't understand what's going on with the defense. You let me know, Tim. Is it the coaching, or are these guys just not that good?
Well, I totally agree with you. I think, Jacoby Brissett is playing winning football. He's playing really good until crunch time. His 3 interceptions have all been when the game's on the line, when they just needed a field goal to either win or tie. So, you shouldn't be in that position anyway. He's playing well enough to where the defense should go out and stop people. Yesterday, the Chargers were they the worst running team in the entire league?
Were.
And then
30 seconds.
And Eckler goes off for 100, averaged almost 11 yards a carry, man. So for what I see is guys taking wrong pursuit angles in the run game, guys coming down, getting out of position, missed tackles. I don't see that necessarily as coaching. I see that as players just getting out of position, man. And you got to take more pride in what you're doing out there, especially defensively. All guys running to the football, taking the right pursuit angles. And right now, you just don't see the effort. You just don't see guys taking pride in their craft and doing the right things and being in the right positions and those kind of things. And, it doesn't take much. You get out of position a little bit, especially against a back like Eckler. And you saw him go down the sideline for a 70-yard run and breaking off all kinds of big runs. So, it is the defense right now. They're letting us down. At the end of the game, I can't believe the Chargers went for it on that 4th down, but they did get a big-time stop right there. I thought the Chargers were just handing us the game.
They gave you the game.
They did.
And we go down and give it right back to them. So that was the most frustrating part for sure.
We say, no, you can have it. No thanks.
No, we don't want it.
Exactly.
You take it. You take it.
Tim, when you're talking about defense and guys taking the wrong pursuit angles and missed tackling, I totally agree. Missed tackling is not coaching. That's just not performance. So what is the role of the defensive coordinator? What's Joe Woods' role in this in terms of setting them up for success? What is or isn't happening with him? What do you put on him? If that goes on the players, what part of it goes on him?
That's a tough call. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not in those meetings, and I don't know what he's expecting from these guys and things. But I think to get that fixed, to get guys to play play the right way, take the right pursuit angles, call them out in meetings in front of everyone. That motivates guys more than anything. Show them, hey, in front of the whole team in a meeting room. Pull up their play. Hey, what are you doing? Look at this pursuit angle right here. How are you going to do that? This is the NFL. You're a starting safety in the NFL. You're coming down, taking an angle like that. Call guys out, and they're going to start taking pride in what they do. If not, then you just have to replace them. So, that would be my strategy. If I was defensive coordinators, I would call guys out in front of everybody, show the missed tackles, show these plays that are causing them to be in these situations, and hopefully guys will go out and take a little pride and get it fixed.
So everybody in Cleveland wants Joe Woods fired. I think that's the consensus. People want him gone.
Peace, homie.
Especially Garrett. But my thing is, what does that solve? What does that truly solve? Who else on staff? It sounds like a scapegoat to me, because who else on staff is going to come in and fix that? We're in the middle of the season. So what happens in a building when a coordinator gets fired? Is it just to send a message? Is there any results or solutions that can come of that? Or is that just simply just to try and get guys' attention and shake things up?
It may be a lot of just trying to get guys' attention. I don't know what it solves, especially at this point. Like we said, I see it more on the players making mistakes. I think it's we've seen communication issues in the secondary. I don't put that on the coach. The players are out there. They know the situation. They know the system. They have to know whether they're in cover 2 or cover 3. You're paying these guys a lot of money to talk out there and communicate and be in the right position and at least get lined up right, take the right pursuit angles. Be a good tackler. Those are basic fundamentals that you shouldn't have to worry about at this level in the NFL. And these guys are doing it week in and week out, making these same mistakes over and over, man. So, for me, I think that's a player issue. I know that everyone likes to blame the D coordinator and things like that, but for me, I just think the players need to step up and have a little bit more pride on the defensive end and start doing their job a little more efficiently.
Hey Tim, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm a firm believer in you. If you go back to Pee Wee football, Pee Wee basketball, the coach has got to assume the responsibility of putting people on notice. Now I listened to Stefanski's post-game press conference, right? And his thing is the softest thing I've ever heard. Oh, we gotta do better.
It's a recorded message.
We gotta get together. If we get together, it's on me and the play. No.
Yeah.
Jacoby, you suck. Can't do that. You got to put people on blast. You got to make them go home and think about it. You got to go home and try to make them cry. Scared to go to the grocery store, right?
Things we'll never see for a thousand will be Stefanski saying, Jacoby, you suck.
Tim, you know this. If you never call a player out, he going to automatically assume that he wasn't the person. You know that's how it worked. It wasn't me. They didn't see the mistake I made. It wasn't me. They didn't call me out. You have to put people on, because right now, I'm a firm believer in this, Tim. I want your opinion on this. Teams take on the personality of their coaches. They do. Yeah. They do.
We're seeing that.
So if you come across soft and laissez-faire, then I'm going to be a laissez-faire player. But if you're a person that keep heat on me all the time, I'm going to react because I don't want the smoke.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. The last thing guys want is to be called out in front of their peers. And that's embarrassing, man. I played for Bruce Arians. He was my offensive coordinator in Cleveland. Bruce would call you out in front of the meeting room, man. He didn't care who it was, whether it was a quarterback, receiver, a lineman. He didn't care who it was. He's going to call you out, and you're going to fix those mistakes. You're not going to just sit there and every week do the same thing over and over, continue to make these mistakes. So I think getting publicly called out like that in front of, especially in a meeting room in front of everyone watching and let guys see you making those mistakes, over and over and over, at some point you got to take a little pride in yourself and fix it. So, yeah, I would love to see him step up a little bit and kind of get guys going, motivate guys, call guys out. I think it's a good philosophy, especially at this point. This is 3 weeks in a row where this team's just had a complete meltdown, had an opportunity to win football games. So it's time to start calling guys out and holding guys a little bit more accountable.
And I got one last question, bro. What the hell is going on with JOK? I thought Notre Dame was a smart school.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm lost. I'm like, dude, do you know the basics here?
I do think he's better with a better middle linebacker next to him.
Well, I think
But I
you're
think
absolutely right.
Well, like we've seen really bad JOK the last couple of weeks.
Anthony
without
Walker
Anthony
hasn't been
Walker
there.
next
Yeah.
to him. I think that makes a huge difference.
Especially for a young linebacker. I mean, he's still young. It's still early. I'm not ready to cut bait on this guy and just say he's done.
Look.
But I want to bring one point up and get your thoughts on this, Tim, because this shows how fickle the league is. The kicker missed two easy, not easy kicks that were within his range. It didn't go our way, whatever. If he doesn't hit the 58-yarder at Carolina,
Okay. I thought about that
Matt
yesterday.
Rule and Baker are 2-3,
Yeah.
and Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are 1-4.
And Matt Rule still has a job today.
And Matt Rule is still coaching.
Well, and Kevin's hanging from a thread.
And then Kevin's seat is red hot.
Kevin is hanging from a thread right now because
I don't know that he is.
Let me tell you. But here, the one common denominator I hear all the time. People are getting wise to this. You're not fooling us anymore. Your strategies down the. We're gonna go with a fourth and a few on our 30-something.
We haven't even talked about that yet.
I'm like,
Tim,
oh my God.
Tim, let's bring up the issue of fourth down. Now, and I hear this, and I believe it because every commentator tells me, and Jason tells me, every book in the world tells you go for it on 4th and 1. I know this is anecdotal. These are the ones that we remember, the ones that blow up. Last week, we saw John Harbaugh and the Ravens go for it instead of taking points that would have given them the lead.
Right.
They lost the game. Last night, he was in the exact same situation, and I think the analytics people were telling him, go for it. And I think he said, you know what, I'm the coach. We're going to kick. They took the points. Cincinnati, in that same situation, was down close. They said, we're not going to kick the field goal that would give us the lead. We're going to go for the touchdown. They missed. They lost the game. The Browns going for it in minus territory.
Yes.
Where was that? The 31-yard line?
30-some-odd yard line.
31-yard line. And I know it was the third quarter and you've got plenty of time to make up for it. But they gave the Chargers, who were going through them like a hot knife through butter, a short field. Now, the defense stood up and held them to a field goal, but they lost by 2. The Ivy League has hijacked our game. They've hijacked our game. We've got a bunch of nerd pencil pushers that don't understand flow and feel because they've never played it at this level, and they're crunching numbers with their little calculators, and I'm done with analytics to that point. I'm sure they're helpful in a lot of areas, but this fourth down nonsense, and really, honestly, Cincinnati, San Diego, and Cleveland, they're the 3 poster childs in my. I know everybody's going for it more. I watch these guys, I feel like I'm playing Madden.
Oh, it's Madden.
It's Tim.
For sure.
The Brandon Staley one yesterday was the most baffling one I've ever. I cannot understand that for the
That
life
was
of me.
perplexing, but Kevin Stefanski's was too. And Tim, if any point, and you played for some knucklehead head coaches, but at any point in your tenure, if they would have sent you out to go for it on 4th and 1 in minus territory, you would have looked at the coach and said, what? We're not going for it.
Absolutely. I think, you sit and watch these games and you're just like, your mind is blown. Like, what in the hell are these coaches thinking, man? Especially, the Browns one was obviously awful. The defense did save them and held them to 3. But, when the Chargers go for it on that 4th and 3 right there, and all the Browns need is a field goal. That's almost like, that's disrespectful to the Browns. We're saying, like,
And you know what? We proved them right.
So
we let the little nerd off the hook.
For sure. That's like saying, we know that you guys are going to mess this up, so we're just going to go for it. Even if we don't get it, we're going to stop it. You guys will do something to lose the game. And the Browns did it. They let them off the hook. So the analytics are really frustrating to me, Jay. Just like you said, they don't take into account for, momentum in a game, flow of the game.
Nope.
You have to feel those things as a head coach, and you got to say, I don't give a damn what the analytics say. I'm punting the football, or I'm taking these easy 3 points.
I think Harbaugh did that last night. I do.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Tim, back in the day, when you got down there was really no decision to make. Every now and then you go for it on a 4th down, but normally you're taking
points.
You're putting all these games in the NFL come down to really 3 points or less. Almost,
You're right.
Well, Tim, I'm gonna go further on you. Hell, do you look at the spread? The spread, Vegas said it was only a 2-point game.
And they got it right. Vegas always
They
gets
got
it
it
right.
right.
The 3 could be crucial.
Vegas always gets it right. Yeah, we're going to leave 3 on the table here.
Here's what I'll say. I'm in the minority again because I didn't have a problem with the Chargers going for it because they put the ball in the hand of their franchise. They gave it to Justin Herbert, and if he converts that, you win the game. The Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs had Chad freaking Henne on the field and went for it on 4th down against the Browns. They converted.
Well, they
and
had
won
to,
the game.
but they had
didn't.
to. Yeah,
No, they didn't.
in that situation, it was. And by the way, it was like 4th and 16.
No, it was
Jason, if you
There was a long 4th that they didn't had to
at
go
the end
for.
of the game, they didn't have to go
No,
for
not
it.
the one at the end of the game.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay,
At
yeah.
the end
If
of
you
the
play
game.
enough hands in Vegas, you're going to win. All right? Here,
But
let me just say this.
Justin Herbert's their franchise.
you
They
have
told
to
him,
have- you
go
have to-
win the game.
you have to-
And
you have
he
to have-
didn't in that moment.
Well,
but I have no
Lamar
problem with putting it in the
Lamar
best.
Jackson is the Ravens franchise,
And there have been
he
times,
didn't do it.
and
And
there have
Joe
been times
Burrow
when they
is the
put it in.
Bengals franchise,
And there have been
he didn't do
times
it.
when they've done it. There
And
are
so
times
what
when
I'm
you
saying
do it,
is,
there's times
like,
when you don't.
I don't. I'd like to talk to D. Podesta. I'd like to talk to one of these geniuses, because here's what they're not taking into account. They're using raw data, but what doesn't factor into the data is the situation in the game. That's what data can't get its hands around. What's the league average on 4th and 1? Well, there's all kinds of different 4th and 1s. There's 4th and 1 at your own 29. There's 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line. There's 4th and 1 in the first quarter. There's 4th and 1 with 2 minutes to go and no timeouts. So the situation is what analytics is washing out of this whole process.
The other thing it doesn't take into account is this. The KYP.
Who's on your
Yeah.
team?
Right.
Do you have enough dogs?
No, you have enough dogs to say, this dude ain't going to be stopped. Right? You can't get that off of paper. You can only get it by the feel of the game. And go down in the 4th quarter, Kevin, put your sheet down. I'm tired of your sheet.
I'm sick of the sheet.
Put your sheet down. What do your eyes tell you? What does your knowledge tell you?
I just think we've gone too far with analytics.
And I agree because, like, we were talking in Atlanta, kick the field goal. I was all for it.
Kick the field goal.
4th and 3 from the 4, take the points. First
Yep,
opening
take
drive,
'em.
So I'm with you there.
Because it's demoralizing when you march all the way down
Totally
the field
agree.
and you come
And
up
you
with
get
this.
nothing.
So, Tim, let me ask you this. There has to be somebody on the sideline that has to be able to go to him and be in his ear. You're like, what are you doing?
No,
That's
that's
organizational.
Now,
Just
who
leave
is
it to the
that?
head coach.
That's
I
organizational.
want Bill Belichick makes those decisions for New England. Nobody's telling Bill, Bill, you need to go for it. You know, Bill would say to that, and Bill uses analytics too, by the way, and he was on the front edge of analytics. But I also think what the league is figuring out is there's got to be a balance. It can't all be on that piece of paper.
Nope.
There's got to be, and I think last night John Harbaugh said, my gut tells me I'm taking these points because we're going to need them. And he took them. They did need them. And they're in first place today.
Yeah.
They're in first place.
Tim, who's on the sideline? Who's there? Because I saw Van Pelt sitting down with you. The other thing I say before I go to that, Jacoby sitting over there by himself. He ain't got nobody in his ear. Van Pelt sat next to him one time. But, I mean, there's no other veteran quarterback now here. You know, because sometimes somebody has to sit down and say, hey, are you seeing this? I don't see that. He's like on an island by himself.
Well, what's Josh Dobbs going to tell him?
Nothing.
Tim, this is frustrating, bro. You can tell we're at the end of it, man.
Yeah, I think all Browns fans are for sure. I know we are as former players watching. It's just happened for so many years now. It's like, how much can you take of this as a Browns fan, man? Like, we find unbelievable ways to lose football games, and it's just so frustrating. I mean, this is a good football team. Let's start there. This is a good football team that should. They should have won at least 2 of these games that they've lost. At least 2 of them.
They'd be 4-1.
So
They'd be 4-1 easily.
absolutely, they could be 4-1. They have to find a way to finish these games, man, because you got some of the best players in the National Football League on your team. You got Pro Bowlers across that offensive line. You got the best running back in the NFL. You got a stud receiver in Amari Cooper. Jacoby Brissett is playing winning football. You should be winning these games. And they're finding a way to lose them, man, and that's the most frustrating part. It's not like we're not capable of beating these teams. We're out there with not only an opportunity to win the game, they should have won these games. And they're finding ways to give it away, and that's certainly most
that
most
culture,
frustrating part about it.
Tim? Is that culture? Is that organizational?
Yeah, Jay, I think at this point you'd have to say, it's been going on for the last 20-some years, with this football team. And, you almost, as a Browns fan and as a former player, you almost just sit back and you're waiting on it at this point. Like, what are we going to do to screw this up? We've played a great game, but I just don't feel comfortable about it pulling this game out in the end, and that's tough, man. You want to feel confidence in the team. You want to trust that these players are going to make the right decisions and make the right plays in crucial times. But in the back of your mind, you're just waiting on it. Like, here we go. What are we going to do to find a way to lose it?
And Saturday, as we're looking at the schedule, we're thinking, man, if you can find a way to steal the game against the Chargers. You've got the Patriots in here. We can get fat on the Patriots. Well, what did the Patriots do? The Patriots went out and apparently found their next Tom Brady, and they held the number one scoring offense to 0 points. And so I have zero faith. And based on what Belichick did to Stefanski last year, I have zero faith that they can win this game.
Tim, I think we asked what the question is and what the problem is. And if you look across the annals of time, if you look across to the great leaders, Alexander the Great, Hannibal, this is crazy. Julius Caesar. These people were able to inspire and evoke emotion in people. To me,
can we put Terry Francona in there?
yes, we put Tito in there.
Okay.
I tell people, if Tito coached his team, we'd be all right, right?
We'd be 5-0.
We'd be good. He don't even got to know the X's and O's. Because you know what Tito understands? He understands how to motivate human beings and men. Here's the problem. When you got somebody that got $100 million and they rich and they family going to be rich forever, how do you motivate that person?
Guardians don't have any of those guys.
There you go.
That's it.
They keep the payroll low. You ain't got no money. They always chasing that carrot. But I'll tell you this, those generals got people to get out of trenches. Those people, they done seen their comrades die. They seen their family in years, and they somewhere traveling across some vast desert trying to go fight another battle. And you got deserters left and right. The great leaders inspired them and gave them a reason to say, you know what? I'm going to fight as hard as I can, even though I might not even make it out of here. When I look at this team and I look at the game of football in general, the game of football is about emotion, it's about inspiration, and it's about going out there leaving everything on the line. When I see the defensive coordinator, he sits up there like he thinks it's a joke or something, like he ain't worried about nothing. Kevin Stefanski comes off, I ain't worried about nothing. Andrew Berry, you know what? We ain't got D tackles and linebackers, I ain't worried about anything. And nobody has any sort of a urgency about themselves that says, guys, this is not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to be here. And unless you start making examples out of people like Bill Belichick does regularly, when your boys, when you said that was my man right here, we rode bikes together and he's sitting on and he out on the waiver wire, that gets attention quickly.
So sure. I'll say this, and Tim, you could probably attest to this. The best coaches come in sometime, and when they want to get their point across, you know what they do? They go in the locker room after a bad loss. They cut somebody's head off right in front of the whole crew. This man, he would play. What? He out. Smitty out.
Right now in the locker, have you ever seen that?
I'm out. Yes.
You have?
Like, guess what everybody else start doing? Start ducking. Like hold on. Don't come get me.
Tim, the reason that hits so different because he's a mayor. I can imagine going in on Monday. Hey, them reports better be done. Yeah.
Out. You're out.
Finance guy
Out. Tim, what you couldn't see because he wasn't on camera for it was he actually made the motion. Boom. Your head's off. You're out.
But that's the Tim's point though, because you have
accountability.
So I don't care if you're making $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. If you screw it up, you got to be held accountable in front of everybody.
Okay, let me ask all of you guys this. Tim, I'll let you start because you know the dynamics of the owner, general manager, coach, player. I had a conversation Saturday at the Guardians game with a very successful businessman who has season tickets to all three, knows the intimate workings of the organizations on all levels. Guardians, Cavs, Browns, knows what's going on. Also has piloted countless businesses from the bottom to the top. It's primarily how he's made his money. He buys bad businesses that have bad infrastructures. He takes them over, he reworks it, and then sells it at a huge profit.
Right.
I asked him, what are we seeing with the Browns? Even though we were watching the Guardians game, I said, what is going on there? And he's a no-nonsense CEO type guy. And this is what he said. And this was before yesterday's game. He said, we've lost games in every way imaginable. Kickers, quarterbacks, wide receivers, coaches, all the defense. All of those people answer to one person. And there's only one person that everybody in the organization answers to. And that's Jimmy Haslam. And he really didn't sugarcoat it. He just said, the Browns are a mess from top to bottom. And it starts at the very top and works its way down. When you look at the Guardians, no, they don't have a ring on their finger. But you know the stat. They've won more games in the American League over the last 10 years with a smaller payroll than everybody except perhaps the Rays, who have had similar success.
Right.
So how are they doing it? Well, they're doing it because and everybody wants to kill the owner, but the owner has put together the envy of all other 29 teams,
Absolutely.
the front office. Mm-hmm. And then they get the right people in the right positions. Chris Antonetti, Tito.
Yeah.
They've got their player development people. They've got winners at all of those spots. There's some people in the Browns organization, I'm just going to say it, it's probably wildly unpopular over there. But there's some people in really powerful positions, and you know who I'm talking about, Jason.
Should have no business.
That have no business being a part of this organization.
Absolutely.
None.
Absolutely
and if they were
true.
fired today, which they won't be because they're family, they wouldn't be getting a call from any of the other 31 teams to come fix our mess. So for me, after watching it again on Sunday and having this conversation with someone who really knows, just goes to the top.
That's what we were talking about with Matt Colleague when Matt was in the other day.
Absolutely.
It's exactly what we were talking
Exactly
about.
what we were saying. And am I wrong about what I'm saying here?
You are 1,000,000% right. And Tim, I don't want to hijack this from you, but real quick, I got to piggyback off what you just said. I covered the NBA for 10 years. I had a very high-profile NBA executive who's run teams before called me, hated the Watson move. Let's put that out there. Hated the Deshaun Watson signing, and said, this is what happens when you have an organization with no core values, no structure, no foundation. He said, go look at your baseball team in that town and look what they do with what they have. They are the envy of everyone in sports. And look at your football team that has unlimited resources that can't get out of their own way. It's the ownership. It's the culture of the ownership. And this guy said, from what I could see of Kevin, he said, I actually really like Kevin, think he could be really good. I don't know if he stands a chance in that organization with that ownership group.
I think he is floundering not because of himself. I think it's because the infrastructure around him.
100%. And that's why I keep, I'm not going to drop the hammer on Kevin until he at least gets a quarterback.
I do think that part of it we got right. But if you hire enough of them, you're going to stumble into one eventually.
Well, that's exactly, yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, when you go up from Kevin, you look around and you're like, well, we're stuck with what we have.
God.
And we're stuck.
And go look, listen, I didn't mention this on the final take that I was going to do the one day. Go back and look at that Jets game. Go back and watch a television broadcast when the Jets recovered the fumble. Kevin Stefanski standing on the sidelines. He's surrounded by children. Children on the sidelines. The children of the family of ownership is surrounding the head coach in the middle of the game. Where else does that happen? Where else does that happen? It is. It was the family. It was Haslam family kids surrounding Kevin Stefanski.
Do we have video evidence of this? Or
no, it was on the broadcast. It was on the television broadcast because that's what was sent to me.
Somebody tweeted.
Can we show that?
Yeah, I mean, it was
CBS
footage.
See if you can send that to Mike and we can show a picture of that.
It's technically in that gray area that we don't.
It's not
want to
video.
sit in.
It's a still.
It's a still from the game.
So that should be good.
So go ahead, Tim. Question is, what does ownership have to do with this? There you go.
Yeah, you know,
There it
'cause
is.
you were part of this. Not with this
You
group.
know what? Should we show kids' faces? I guess they were already on the.
No, actually, no, you're right. Yeah, you're
That's
right.
a good
I mean, they were on the broadcast.
They were on the broadcast. But my point, listen.
No, you're right,
You
though.
can go find it for yourself. My point is, where else in the NFL are kids hanging out on the sideline?
How close to Stefanski were they?
Meet a Brad.
Right next to Kevin
Brad.
Stefanski.
Yeah,
At what point in the game?
After the Jets recovered the onside kick.
Yeah, they got that onside
At the end of the game. At the end of the game.
So while that's going on, Kevin Stefanski
is trying to coach surrounded by kids.
That's a fact. You can go back and see it.
You know
pretty
what?
easy to find.
That's all the evidence we need.
Tim, have you ever
It should never happen.
Tim, have you ever heard or seen anything like that?
I've never heard or seen anything like that. I didn't even see that during the game, to be honest with you. I think I was too busy throwing my remote control across the room to look at the screen.
I think that's why I missed it too.
Exactly. I'm like, here we
I
go
didn't see
again.
it.
How the hell are we going to lose this game to the Jets right now, man? So I didn't notice that during the broadcast, but no, that I've certainly never seen that before.
Yeah.
And how troubling is that? I mean, can this organization ever win with this family owning the team?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're so close. I mean, it's hard to say we can't win because we should be winning these games. And, it's a matter of just, guys finding a way to finish games. They put together one hell of a roster. I mean, this is a good football team, and they're getting way more out of their quarterback, their backup quarterback, than I think any of us thought they were going to get. Jacoby Brissett's playing good football until the last 3 minutes of the game, and a lot of these times he shouldn't even be in those situations to have to try to win the game. So
right.
I think they're right on the verge of being a good football team and going in the right direction. But, Jay, like we said earlier, is it a culture thing? Because, the last 20 years, it's almost like the Browns have been cursed in trying to win these games, and it just continues year after year after year. And I don't know what the answer is to get over that hump, to start winning these type of games, these close games. But we've found ways over the last 20 years to lose these games that you couldn't even imagine. It's so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, and even when Staley says, I think I'm going to go for it here, and doesn't get it,
right?
You're literally thinking this is over. You get 15 yards, and it's a kicker. It's a chip shot for our kicker. And we can't get any extra yards, and it ends up being now in defense of our kicker. Kicks of plus 50 yards. There's a reason that those are the lowest percentage in terms of kicks made in the league. It's difficult, and it's not a matter of whether or not he has the leg. It's just you also have to put the kick in the right spot. And he didn't do it. McNuggets has something for you before we let you go, Tim.
Yeah, Tim, today's the first day Deshaun Watson can return to the Browns facility. He can't practice, but he can lift with the team. He can participate in team meetings. So you've been in those situations, in those meetings. How quickly do you think he'll get reacclimated within this Browns system? So when he can return to the field, hopefully he'll be as unrusty, non-rusty. I'm not sure as least rusty as possible.
Well, I think mentally, he can be up to full speed. I think that, being in the meetings, I think he's obviously been working on his own, probably going out and having wide receivers and calling plays and just getting used to, getting the terminology out to guys and, going through his reads, things like that. But, you can't replace that game speed, especially when he comes back at that point in the season. It's going to be, guys are going to be fighting for playoff positions and things like that. The speed of the game is going to be flying. He's going to be rusty. I mean, let's be honest. The guy hadn't played a lot of football in the last 2 years. He hadn't played at all in the last 2 years. So, I mean, to think he could just come out there and look like the Deshaun Watson of old right off the bat, I think is unrealistic. It's going to be a process, but I think mentally he can be there. I think it's just getting up to the game speed and getting used to getting hit again and making those quick decisions and getting the ball out of his hand. But, I think, we hopefully can get there as quickly as possible. I think it's going to take at least a few games and, maybe into next season before we see the real Deshaun Watson.
All right, Tim, before we let you go, last thing, 20 seconds. What's their record if Deshaun Watson has played all 5 games so far?
I think we've probably got one loss right now. I think, in these situations where, especially yesterday, I don't think Deshaun Watson tries to make that throw that Jacoby tried to make. I think Deshaun Watson trusts his legs to run for that first down and at least know that all you need is a field goal right here. You got the game in your back pocket.
Right.
The only thing you can't do is turn the football over and you win the game. So
Jacoby should have trusted his legs. Jacoby probably could have run that ball into the end zone.
He would have been very close. He would have been very close. And Jacoby, he made some good runs during that game. So he made some great runs. So, in that situation, if the guy's not just standing in the end zone wide open and the defensive back fell down, you run that ball or you throw it over his head and you win the game on a field goal. So, that was, I'm sure he's having a tough day today watching that film and, just trying to, relive that decision, and all he had to do was just tuck it and run to the sideline, man. And he's at worst getting the first down, if not turning the corner and scoring.
Tim, thanks as always, man. Great stuff. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate you, Tim.
All right, appreciate you guys.
Appreciate
see
you,
you next
Tim.
week.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.